Hey, hey, ow, don't pull my hairs. No pull. No pull mommy's hairs. I love this boy. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. We are so happy to have you back. Arrow is distracted, obviously. Oh, he's back. Oh, he's back. He has a lot of energy. Like I said, I'm glad you guys are here. Make sure to hit like and subscribe. Today we are going to be talking about this sweet baby's birth story. So before we get into that, I'm going to go ahead and kind of hand him off to his dad so that I can completely focus on this. And we'll get going. Okay, we are back. Like I said, we're going to be talking about Arrow's birth story in this video. I'm not really going to touch on pregnancy very much. I would really like to do a whole separate video based on pregnancy, so go ahead and comment below if you guys would actually be interested in seeing that sort of thing. So without further ado, let's just get into the nitty-gritty about birth. Before I even got pregnant, I knew that I wanted to have a home birth just because I am not comfortable in hospitals. I don't really like doctors. And so that's really what led me to to a home birth, because I'm a homebody. I really enjoy being at home. It's where I feel my most comfortable, the most of myself. So my sister-in-law actually recommended the midwife that I went with, and as soon as I found out that I was pregnant, I messaged her, and that is actually Emily Schultz. Huge shout out to Emily. I absolutely love her and adore her. She is really like part of my family now. So obviously I messaged her. We had a meeting. We just talked about her experience, her credentials, etc., etc. Home births in Ohio are not covered by insurance at the moment. We are fighting for that to happen, but as of right now, that's not covered. So for me, it costed about $2,500, pretty sure. Not that exact number, but pretty much around there. And we paid that in monthly installments, so it really wasn't anything bad or crazy. Very doable for us, not doable for everybody, and I completely understand that. So that's really how I decided on my midwife. I really loved, I didn't meet with any other midwives. I didn't need to. I loved Emily's vibe, her personality. She had tons of experience, and so that's who I went with. I followed my instincts. Now we're gonna skip to 9 months later. A couple weeks before my actual due date, I was having pre-labor contractions, and that's really just your body preparing itself for labor. So it was basically like Braxton Hicks contractions, except I didn't realize it at the time, because like a couple of times I would have the Braxton Hicks contractions throughout my day, but other times it would feel like real contractions, like where your stomach gets really tight. And so I thought that that was the real thing, and that happened like a couple of weeks before my due date, and it's really kind of exhausting because it made me keep thinking that I was gonna go into labor at any second. And so we kind of decided to get the labor going by naturally inducing. I learned a lot from that experience, and with my next pregnancy, I'm pretty sure that I'm just gonna let my baby stay inside of me for as long as he or she wants to, because there's really no rush and there's really nothing wrong with it unless it ends up being a danger to me. I think that that's what I've decided to do, but obviously things change. I have no idea what my next pregnancy will be like, and I don't really need to talk about that really because that's not happening yet. So on May 16th, Emily actually came over to my house, and we did like a little circuit to get labor going. And what that included was just like sidestepping, which is just I had a stool, stepped up, stepped down, step up, step down, and switching sides. And then we did things like side laying, which is where I just laid on my side with my leg kind of over the pillow, and all of these things really just help open your body up, prepare for labor, and kind of get contractions going. So we also did things like abdominal lifts, which is just lifting. Like Emily and Damon both, I wish I had a pregnant belly right now because it'd be easier to show you, but they just lifted my belly up and then put the baby kind of over my cervix to get him into position, because a lot of time throughout my pregnancy, he was posterior. So we had to do some work to turn him around, which we did. So we also did things like pumping, like breast pumping. And then the last thing that we did was a castor oil smoothie, which is very little castor oil with some ice cream and peanut butter, all blended up into a smoothie. Castor oil may not work for everybody, but it worked for me, so I don't need hate on it, okay? But very soon after the castor oil, we tried to go through the circuit again, and during my pumping session of the circuit, I got really nauseous, and we kind of all mutually decided that I should probably just stop the circuit, go lay down, try to get some sleep, and we would continue in the morning. So that's what we did. We went to sleep, but sleep did not occur. At about 1 in the morning, I woke up with having contractions that were definitely more intense than I was used to, but not very close together. So I got up, I woke Emily up, asked her what I should do, and she just advised me that I should try to get as much rest as I can, and to come get her if they get super, super close together. So I listened, I went back to bed. I wasn't able to sleep though. Number 1, I took castor oil, and that cleared me out, if you know what I mean. Number 2, I was obviously up, still having contractions. So around 3 in the morning, I woke up to go to the bathroom and lost my mucus plug. And that kind of freaked me out because previously I had thought that if you lose your mucus plug, you're gonna immediately go into labor, but that is not always the case. So I came out, got Emily, and that's what she told me, and she told me that I should still try to get as much rest as I can, because labor is obviously a very intense, tiring process. It's a lot of hard work, so you need as much rest as you can, but you can't always get it. So I went back to our bedroom. Damon and I sat up for like maybe an hour, and I was just contracting. Damon was there for me, and then Damon ended up going to sleep because we decided that somebody needed rest, and my contractions were not bad enough that I needed him to be up with me, but I didn't want to go to sleep. I couldn't sleep. So I stayed up for about another hour or two, just kind of contracting on my own. I would move from the bed to the floor, wake Damon up if I needed him, so on and so forth. And then at about 6 in the morning, I decided to just come out to the living room. I didn't want to be in my bedroom anymore. I wanted to get out, go on with my normal day, and kind of just start the circuit. I was really tired. I just wanted to get this going. At one point, Damon and I went on a walk, and by a walk, I mean we walked out of our driveway, went down the street, and came back. But on this walk, I stopped 6 times to have contractions. So when we came back, by the way, I just want to say that I don't remember every single little detail. I was exhausted, and I was in a lot of pain, obviously, which I will talk more about pain very soon. And I did not pay attention to the time. It's honestly it's a very surreal experience. I kind of felt out of body a lot of the time, so I just want to say that like my times are probably not exact, and I'm not going to remember every single little detail. I just wanted to throw that out there. But once we came back from our walk, I'm pretty sure that Emily checked my cervix, and it was posterior, and that just means that like my water had not broken yet, so my water bag and the baby were just kind of like pushing on a wall, kind of. Nothing was happening. It was just causing a lot of discomfort and pain for me. And the contractions really weren't helpful. They were just causing me unnecessary pain. So I wanted to wait a little bit before we actually went in to break my water, just because the thought of that freaked me out just a little bit. But after a while, I was like, okay, nothing's happening. Let's just go ahead and break it. So we laid on the couch, broke my water, which it was just like a little like finger glove with like, I don't want to say spikies because they really weren't like spikies, but something to just be able to hook and break the water. I'm not really 100% sure how to explain that, but you know what I mean. So yeah, so we broke my water, and then that's when things really started to happen. My contractions became much more intense and very close together, and I dilated very quickly. So now I kind of want to talk about pain. It was painful. It was painful. labor is painful, you guys. There was a point in the very beginning where I kind of forgot what I was teaching myself and what I was preparing for. So I forgot how to handle it, and I was like kind of yelling out, and I wasn't sure what to do. And then I kind of told myself, like, in between contractions, I was like, you need to remember to breathe. You need to remember to center yourself and to breathe. So that's when, for me, it became more of like a spiritual experience. Like, I completely focused. I focused in on my labor playlist, which just consisted of like kind of like some ceremonial chants plus songs, and I'll actually link some songs below because they're really beautiful. So if you're interested in hearing what I listened to when I gave birth, they will be below. But I really just focused in on that playlist, listened to the music, listened to the words, and breathed. I just breathed through every single contraction, and that's the biggest way that I managed the pain. There are other ways that I managed the pain too. Like, my husband, during contractions, we had a rebozo wrap, which looks like this. Wrapped it around my belly, and a lot of times I would just bend over the couch, and like my husband would pull up on that wrap. It just relieved a lot of pressure for me, at least in my head it did, and made the contractions more bearable. I also did things like swaying back and forth. I feel like that's more of a comfort thing, but it is also a thing that you can do if your baby is posterior to help turn him or her around. So that's a huge thing that I did to help turn him around because he was posterior. So I did a lot of swaying back and forth, switching positions. I contracted over the couch. I mean, that's the main way that I contracted. That was the most comfortable. But I also tried laying on my side. Not for me. I do not like laying down and contracting. Yeah, laying down and contracting was very, 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 very painful for me. I did not feel like I could manage it properly, so I mostly contracted standing up, leaning over the couch. And really my only support, my husband. I mean, he really helped with that rebozo wrap, pulling up. He rubbed my back, hugged me, and held me. This is one of my favorite pictures from that experience, actually. And then at around 2 or 3 o'clock, we checked my cervix again, and I was 9 centimeters dilated. So Emily blew up the birthing pool, filled it with water, and I was still contracting on the couch at this point, and I just said, I was like, I need this to be filled up. I need to get in the pool. I really feel like I need to start pushing. So once she filled that up, I immediately got into the pool. And I just want to say that, like, water births are the way to go. It really, as soon as I sat down in that pool, I felt so much relief. I felt relief, like, from the pressure that's, like, pushing down on your pelvis, and I just felt so much more relaxed and calm in the water. And honestly, here's a picture to show it. I did a lot of this. And honestly, my midwife and my doula, Tate, and there was another midwife there as well. I cannot remember her name right now. Wow. She was only there if I needed like stitches or something like that at the end. So yeah, pretty much the entire time that I was contracting and pushing in the pool, I pushed like very slowly. I pushed for I think 2 or 3 hours, and I just did that to slowly bring him down. I just listened to my instincts and listened to my body and did it that way. And the whole time that I was contracting and pushing, everybody just kind of left me alone, which is, it was what I wanted. The only person who was like actively touching me and like near me, near the, like at the beginning there, was Damon, and he really just held me while I contracted and rubbed my back and did a really good job with like cold washcloths on my face, just pushing back my hair and making me feel comfortable and cool. And everybody else just kind of sat back and left me alone, and if I needed something I would have asked. But it was the perfect experience. Nobody was up in my business. Nobody was asking me questions, telling me what I needed to do. It was beautiful and it was amazing, and it was I was leading it, and that felt really good to have that authority over my own body and my own birth. The one thing that Emily did keep asking me was if she wanted me to warm up the water, and I just kept saying no because I get hot very easily, so I didn't want the water to be too hot. But the water does need to be a certain temperature for the baby to be born in. So at some point I did have to get out of the tub out of the birthing pool so that they could warm up the water, and that was extremely difficult, and that was the only part of my birth that I really did not enjoy. And they wanted me to get out because I kept feeling like I had to poop, because you do. There's so much pressure down there. And so they thought that maybe I should try. I didn't have to. The castor oil took care of that for me the night before. But so we got out. I had to have help lifting my legs because it really just felt impossible for me. And they took me to the bath. I had a couple of contractions on the toilet, and I seriously thought that I might have that baby on the toilet. Did not want to have the baby on the toilet. I wanted to be in the water where I felt comfortable. So we came back. I had to have somebody lift my legs into the water again because, like I said, it felt so impossible for some reason. I felt like if I lifted my legs at all, he was just going to fall out, which was not the case. I pushed for another hour after this, I think. We got back in the pool, and it was way warmer, and actually it was really nice. And we kind of decided that that's when I needed to start really pushing. So for about an hour, I was bearing down very hard, very, very hard. And that was, honestly, while I was pushing, that was when I was in the least pain. I remember reading a couple of things when I was pregnant, like for pain management, where it was like, focus on like the pleasure of the pain, if that makes sense. Like as you're pushing, it's like you focus on like the pleasure of the pain. I mean, I don't really know what else to say. I am gonna find an article about it and link it below. So please read it so you can understand what I am trying to say and not saying very well. But while I was pushing was the least amount of pain that I felt. It was actually kind of pleasurable, like I was saying, which is weird, I know. So I pushed for probably half an hour to an hour, and I felt like I couldn't do it anymore. There was a point where I really felt like I was never going to give birth. I was never going to do it, because I would push and like really bear down and feel him move down, and Emily would feel him move down. But then after I would let go, he moved right back up. So Emily was talking to me, and she was saying, and she was doing things to help me, open me up, relieve pressure, but in the end, she really had to be real with me and say, like, I was gonna have to bear down, push really hard, like, it's like push really hard and then go like, and just push really hard again, over and over again. Really difficult to do because you run out of breath so quickly. I tried to do it for a little while. There was one point where I did it and let go, breathed for a minute, and reached down and felt his head. You guys, here was my reaction. It was crazy. It was so crazy to feel his head. It was so surreal. And then I think I probably only pushed for 2 or 3 times after that. I knew it was happening when I felt the ring of fire. If you know, you know. You know. The ring of fire. I seriously felt like my vagina was on fire. That's the worst pain. That's the worst pain of labor. I'm telling you, that's the worst pain. So I felt the ring of fire, and then his head was out. I cannot even tell you how relieved I felt until I realized that I had to push the rest of his body out. Arrow actually had shoulder dystocia, and that just means that his shoulder was stuck. So Emily was trying her best to kind of open it up, let him, like, give him room to get through and kind of pull him out a little bit. I did end up having to push again. So I pushed one more time really hard and then just felt this, like, release. I was in shock. I said, as soon as he came out and Emily picked him up and gave him to me, I said, I cannot believe I just had this baby. I was so shocked because just a couple of hours before I was saying, I cannot do this anymore. I feel like I can't, I feel like I'm never going to have him. And then I had him. You guys, you don't know real love until you have a baby. People say that to you and you're like, yeah, okay, whatever. But it is true. It's some intense stuff. Like, even now, when I look at my baby, and he's 7 months old right now, I am just filled with so much love. I feel like I can't handle it. I can just imagine that feeling again. Like right when you have him and you're holding him in your arms, and I was still in shock. I couldn't cry. I couldn't do anything. I was just filled with love and shock. And I was just holding him and caressing him. And he did not cry. He didn't cry when he first came out. And I honestly think that it's because of the way that he came into the world. Honestly. You would have obviously had to have been here in the moment to experience it. But it was so, so beautiful and so peaceful. Honestly, so spiritual. So I think the birth, I think the whole experience, that's the reason why he came out the way he did and didn't cry, because it was so calm. And I think that he felt comfortable and safe, and he was just in his mama's arms. And that's it. I mean, he did cry like one little baby cry. I'm like imagining him in my arms. I know that's so weird, but I'm just imagining it. That's why I'm doing this. But yeah, and he really didn't cry again until his newborn exam, which was a little bit later. But so we stayed in the birthing pool for a little bit longer, obviously, until I gave birth to my placenta, which, by the way, does hurt. It hurts. Not as bad as having your baby, but you're so sensitive down there, and everything's just so raw that it's definitely a little sting when the placenta comes out. But it's not as bad, and it only takes about 20 minutes. But after I gave birth to the placenta, there was a lot of bleeding, so we got me out of the pool, got on the couch, and Damon took Arrow and did a little bit of skin to skin just while I could get on the couch and they could kind of examine me. One of the midwives just kind of pushed on my uterus, which everybody says that hurts, but it did not hurt me. I'm not saying this to toot my own horn, but my pain tolerance is extremely high, so I think that could have played a factor, but it really didn't hurt at all. So she was pushing and pushing, and just a big blood clot came out, and that's why I was bleeding so much in the pool. So after that, I seemed okay. Obviously, I was still bleeding, but not as bad. And then they just examined me. I didn't tear at all. I just had like one tiny little tear. Didn't need stitches. I just had to be careful, obviously. So then I did get Arrow back, obviously, and we were trying breastfeeding, and he latched immediately. He had a beautiful latch. And we actually got this really beautiful picture, so I'll show you here. Oh, wait. I think Arrow's coming out here. I can take him. Hi, gorgeous boy. Hi. Arrow's coming. Arrow's joining the party. So, yeah, like I was saying, he had a really beautiful latch. I would also like to talk about breastfeeding in a later video, but I got all distracted for this beautiful baby. This beautiful baby. Hi. So I just think he came out hungry because his latch was so good, but a little while later, I mean, he had his newborn exam. Damon and I ate some food. More breastfeeding happened. They packed up and left. I mean, the afterbirth really isn't anything that I need to go into super detail about. So yeah. Then it was just me and the baby and my husband, and it was beautiful, and it was amazing. It is amazing to have him in this world. You may be wondering what I did with my placenta. I didn't, I have ideas of what I'm going to do with it, like my next pregnancy. I'm not going to go into it all right now, but for this one, I just got a placenta print, which my midwife did. That's my blood. There's no artificial coloring or anything. I just think it's really beautiful, and I wanted to have a keepsake. I also that gave you life. That gave you food. I also freeze dried. I didn't do this. My midwife Emily did. Freeze dried my umbilical cord because I'm a weirdo, and I really like to have these keepsakes, and I just think it's so beautiful. Yeah, I just think it's beautiful to have. So I also had a bit of my placenta put in like a, what are you doing, crazy boy? Put in a tincture. I haven't used it very much. You're just, oh, what? The boy's upset. Look. That was attached to you. Be careful. Be careful. Yeah, I had a bit of it put in a tincture. I haven't really used it, only once or twice. It did help. It helps to rebalance your hormones and things like that after birth. But I haven't taken it a lot. I should have. to help with like postpartum depression and things like that, but I did not. So noted for next time. So anyways, I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. My birth experience was so beautiful and just so spiritual and made me want to have a ton more babies, which I will talk about obviously throughout. I'll talk about over time how I want babies and kind of our plan with babies in the future and pregnancy and things like that. So, oh no, we don't want to eat this. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think below and let me know what you want to see from me. Be sure to hit the like button and subscribe. It really supports me, and like I always say, I really appreciate the support from you guys. Babe, come here.
Annie. Oh.
He got
Hey, it's like a slinky.
Yeah, he wanted to play with it. He got mad.